Before we begin, I need to tell you something about this book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, by Friedrich Nietzsche, published between 1883 and 1885. This is the most unusual philosophy book ever written, because it is not a philosophy book, not in the ordinary sense, not arguments, not proofs, not the careful step-by-step construction of a case. It is a gospel, written to replace the gospel that Nietzsche believed Europe had lost when God died. Not literally died, but ceased to be believable, ceased to be the foundation on which a culture could build its values, its meaning, its sense of what matters and what does not. When that foundation cracked, and Nietzsche believed it had cracked, irrevocably in the 19th century, the question became, what now? If God is dead, if the old values no longer hold, if the inherited meaning has collapsed, what do we build on, and who builds it? Nietzsche's answer is Zarathustra, a prophet, a teacher, who descends from a mountain after 10 years of solitude to say something new, something that the world has never heard, because the world has never been in this position before, the position of having destroyed its own foundation and needing to build another, from nothing, with nothing to build on except the human will itself, and the courage to say yes to a world without guarantees. Zarathustra is the character who has found that courage and comes back down to share it with whoever is strong enough to hear it. This is Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, the most quoted, most searched, most misunderstood philosophy book ever written. Part 1. Let us begin. Nietzsche writes, when Zarathustra was 30 years old, he left his home and the lake of his home and went into the mountains. Here he enjoyed his spirit and his solitude, and for 10 years did not tire of it. But at last a change came over his heart, and one morning he rose with the dawn, stepped before the sun, and spoke to it thus, "You great star, what would your happiness be if you did not have those for whom you shine? You have come up here for 10 years, and would have grown weary of your light and of this journey had it not been for me and my eagle and my serpent. But we waited for you every morning, took from you your overflow, and blessed you for it. Behold, I am weary of my wisdom, like a bee that has gathered too much honey. I need hands that reach out. I want to give away and distribute until the wise among human beings have again become happy in their folly, and the poor happy in their wealth. For that, I must descend to the depths as you do in the evening, when you go behind the sea and bring light to the underworld too, you over-rich star. Like you, I must go under, as the humans say, to whom I want to descend. So bless me then, you quiet eye, that can look upon even an all too great happiness without envy. Bless the cup that wants to overflow, so that water flows golden from it, and carries the reflection of your delight everywhere. Behold, this cup wants to become empty again, and Zarathustra wants to become human again. Thus began Zarathustra's going under. Thus began Zarathustra's going under. Stop. The first paragraph of the most important philosophy book of the 19th century. And it begins not with an argument, not with a thesis, not with a proposition to be proved. It begins with a man talking to the sun, which is either insane or the most honest thing a philosopher has ever done, because the sun does not argue back, does not challenge, does not demand evidence. It simply receives everything he has been holding. For 10 years, on the mountain, he has too much. He needs to give it away. This is the beginning. Not God is dead, not the Overman, not eternal recurrence. This, a man with too much wisdom, needing to find someone to give it to, going down. He continues, Zarathustra went down the mountain alone, no one meeting him. But when he came into the forest, all at once there stood before him an old man who had left his holy hut to seek roots in the forest. And thus spoke the old man to Zarathustra, No stranger to me is this wanderer. Several years ago he passed by here. Zarathustra he was called. But he has changed. At that time you carried your ashes to the mountain. Will you now carry your fire into the valleys? Do you not fear the punishment of arsonists? Yes, I recognize Zarathustra. His eye is pure, and no loathing lurks about his mouth. Does he not walk like a dancer? Zarathustra has changed. Zarathustra has become a child. Zarathustra is an awakened one. What do you now want among the sleepers? You lived in your solitude as if in the sea, and the sea bore you. Alas, will you now climb ashore? Alas, will you again drag your own body? Zarathustra answered, I love human beings. The saint said, Why did I go into the forest and the desert? Was it not because I loved human beings far too much? Now I love God. Human beings I do not love. The human being is for me too imperfect a thing. Love of human beings would destroy me. Zarathustra answered, What did I say of love? I am bringing humans a gift. The sage said, Give them nothing. Better to take something off them and carry it together with them. That will please them most, if only it be pleasing to you. And if you want to give to them, give no more than alms, and let them beg for that too. No, said Zarathustra, I give no alms. I am not poor enough for that. The saint laughed at Zarathustra and spoke thus, Then see to it that they accept your treasures. They are suspicious of hermits, and do not believe that we come with gifts. Our steps sound too lonely through their streets. And when they hear a man walking alone long before sunrise, they probably ask themselves, Where is the thief going? Do not go to human beings and stay in the forest. Go rather to the animals. Why not be like me, a bear among bears, a bird among birds? What does the saint do in the forest? Asked Zarathustra. The saint answered, I make songs and sing them. And when I make songs, I laugh, cry, and mumble. Thus I praise God. With singing, crying, laughing, and mumbling, I praise the God who is my God. But what do you bring us as a gift? When Zarathustra heard these words, he bade the saint farewell, and said, What could I have to give you? Let me go quickly, lest I take something from you. And thus they separated, the old one and the man laughing like two boys. But when Zarathustra was alone, he spoke thus to his heart, Could it be possible? This old saint in the forest has not yet heard that God is dead. God is dead. The most famous sentence Nietzsche ever wrote, here in the 4th page of the Prologue. Not shouted, not declared dramatically, not presented as an argument, said quietly to himself in the forest after meeting an old man who still believed. Could it be possible that he has not yet heard that God is dead, not killed, not murdered, not violently overthrown, simply not heard from for a very long time? And the question is not whether God died. The question is what it means that we have not yet heard, that we are still living as if the foundation is there when the foundation is gone. Nietzsche writes, when Zarathustra arrived at the nearest town on the edge of the forest, he found many people assembled there in the marketplace, for it had been announced that a tightrope walker would provide entertainment. And Zarathustra spoke thus to the people, I teach you the Overman. The human being is something that shall be overcome. What have you done to overcome him? All beings so far have created something beyond themselves. And do you want to be the ebb of this great flood and even go back to the beasts rather than overcome the human being? What is the ape to the human being? A laughingstock or a painful embarrassment? And that is precisely what the human being shall be to the Overman, a laughingstock or a painful embarrassment. You have made your way from worm to human being, and much in you is still worm. Once you were apes, and even now the human being is more ape than any ape. But whoever is the wisest among you is also merely a conflict, and a cross between plant and ghost. But do I bid you become ghosts or plants? Behold, I teach you the Overman. The Overman is the meaning of the earth. Let your will say, the Overman shall be the meaning of the earth. The Overman is the meaning of the earth. Stop. The Overman, the most misunderstood word in all of Nietzsche. It has been translated as Superman, as master race, as the Nazi ideal. None of these are correct. None of these are what Nietzsche meant. The Overman, Übermensch, is simply the person who has overcome themselves, not conquered others, overcome themselves, their inherited values, their unexamined beliefs, their comfortable habits, their herd instincts, their fear of what other people think. The person who has created their own values from their own strength, rather than inheriting values from the culture that formed them, and accepted those values without examination. This person, this self-created person, is the Overman, not a master, a possibility for any human being who is strong enough to do the work. He continues, I beseech you, my brothers, remain faithful to the earth, and do not believe those who speak to you of otherworldly hopes. Poison mixers are they, whether they know it or not. Despisers of life are they, decaying and poison themselves, of whom the earth is weary. So let them go. Once the sin against God was the greatest sin, but God died, and with him these sinners died too. To sin against the earth is now the most terrible thing, and to esteem the entrails of the unknowable higher than the meaning of the earth. Once the soul looked contemptuously upon the body, and at that time this contempt was the highest. The soul wished the body meager, ugly, and starved. Thus it hoped to escape the body and the earth. Oh, this soul itself was still meager, ugly, and starved, and cruelty was the lust of this soul. But you too, my brothers, tell me, What does your body proclaim about your soul? Is not your soul poverty and filth and a pitiful contentment? Remain faithful to the earth, the command, the counter-command, to everything religion ever said. Not be faithful to God, not be faithful to heaven, not deny the body for the soul. Be faithful to the earth. This is Nietzsche's affirmation, the yes that runs through everything he wrote. Say yes to the earth, to the body, to this life, as it is, without the promise of a better one elsewhere. He continues, verily a polluted stream is man. One must be a sea to receive a polluted stream without becoming unclean. Behold, I teach you the Overman. He is this sea. In him your great contempt can go under. What is the greatest experience you can have? It is the hour of the great contempt, the hour in which even your happiness turns to nausea for you, and even your reason and your virtue, the hour when you say, "What matters my happiness?" It is poverty and filth and a pitiful contentment. Should justify existence itself. The hour when you say, "What matters my reason?" Does it crave knowledge as the lion his food? It is poverty and filth and a pitiful contentment. The hour when you say, "What matters my virtue?" As yet it has not made me rage. How weary I am of my good and my evil. All that is poverty and filth and a pitiful contentment. The hour when you say, "What matters my justice?" I do not see that I am a glowing coal, but the just are glowing coals. The hour when you say, "What matters my pity?" Is not pity the cross on which he is nailed who loves man? But my pity is not a crucifixion. But my pity is not a crucifixion. He continues, have you ever spoken thus? Have you ever cried thus? Ah, that I might have heard you cry thus. Not your sin, your moderation cries to heaven. Your very sparingness in sinning cries to heaven. Where is the lightning to lick you with its tongue? Where is the madness with which you should be inoculated? Behold, I teach you the Overman. He is this lightning. He is this madness. He is this lightning. He is this madness. Nietzsche writes, when Zarathustra had spoken these words, he looked again at the people and fell silent. There they stand, he said to his heart. There they laugh. They do not understand me. I am not the mouth for these ears. Must one first batter their ears so that they learn to hear with their eyes? Must one clatter like kettle drums and preachers of repentance? Or do they only believe the stammerer? They have something of which they are proud. What is it they call it that makes them proud? Culture, they call it. It distinguishes them from the goatherds. Therefore they dislike hearing the word contempt applied to them. So I will speak to their pride instead. So I will speak to them about the most contemptible thing, and that is the last human being. The last human being. He continues, the time has come for the human being to set itself a goal. The time has come for the human being to plant the seed of its highest hope. Its soil is still rich enough for it. But one day, this soil will be poor and tame, and no tall tree will be able to grow in it anymore. Alas, the time is coming when the human being will no longer shoot the arrow of its longing beyond the human being, and the string of its bow will have forgotten how to whir. I tell you, one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. I tell you, you still have chaos in yourselves. Alas, the time is coming when the human being will no longer give birth to a star. Alas, the time is coming of the most despicable human being who can no longer despise himself. Behold, I show you the last human being. One must have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. The most famous line in the prologue, the chaos, the disorder, the uncertainty, the not knowing. This is not the enemy. This is the material from which something new is born. The person who has eliminated all chaos, who is perfectly comfortable, perfectly adjusted, cannot give birth to anything. He continues, what is love? What is creation? What is longing? What is a star? Thus asks the last human being and blinks. The earth has become small, and on it hops the last human being who makes everything small. His kind is ineradicable like the flea beetle. The last human being lives longest. We have invented happiness, say the last human beings, and they blink. They have left the regions where it was hard to live, for one needs warmth. One still loves one's neighbor and rubs against him, for one needs warmth. Becoming ill and harboring mistrust counts as sinfulness with them. One moves carefully. A fool he who still stumbles over stones or over people. A little poison now and then, that makes for agreeable dreams, and a lot of poison at last for an agreeable death. One still works, for work is entertainment, but one takes care the entertainment does not exhaust one. One no longer becomes poor or rich. Both require too much exertion. Who still wants to rule? Who obey? Both require too much exertion. No shepherd and one herd. Everyone wants the same. Everyone is the same. Whoever feels differently goes voluntarily into a madhouse. We have invented happiness, say the last human beings, and they blink. We have invented happiness, and they blink. The last human being who has solved every problem by making themselves smaller, who has found safety by eliminating all risk, all challenge, all discomfort, all the sharp edges of genuine life, who is comfortable always, perfectly, and who calls this happiness and blinks. He continues, formerly all the world was mad, said the most refined, and they blink. One is clever and knows everything that has ever happened, so there is no end of mockery. People still quarrel, but they are soon reconciled. Otherwise, it would upset the stomach. One has one's little pleasure for the day and one's little pleasure for the night, but one has a regard for health. We have invented happiness, say the last human beings, and they blink. And here ended Zarathustra's first speech, which is also called the Prologue. For at this point, the shouting and the delight of the crowd interrupted him. Give us this last human being. Make us into this last human being. And they shouted and laughed. But Zarathustra turned sad and said to his heart, they do not understand me. I am not the mouth for these ears. I seem to have lived too long in the mountains. I listened too little to brooks and trees. Now I speak to them as to goatherds. My soul is unmoved and bright as the mountains in the morning, but they think I am cold and a jester and terrible. And now they look at me and laugh. And while they laugh, they hate me too. There is ice in their laughter. There is ice in their laughter. The crowd does not want the Overman. The crowd wants to be the last human being. Safe, comfortable, equal, small. To give them something finds they want the opposite of what he carries, and is sad, not angry, sad, because he loves them, and they do not know what they are choosing. Nietzsche writes, "Then something happened that made every mouth dumb and every eye rigid. For meanwhile, the tightrope walker had begun his work. He had come out from a little door and was going along the rope which was stretched between two towers. When he was just in the middle of his course, the little door opened once more, and a colorful fellow who looked like a jester leaped out and ran with quick steps after the first. 'Go on, Haltfoot,' he cried in a terrible voice. 'Forward, lazy bones, smuggler, paleface, or I shall tickle you with my heel. What are you doing here between the towers? In the tower is where you belong. You should be locked up. You block the way for one better than yourself.' And with every word he came closer and closer to him. But when he was only one step behind, the terrible thing happened which made every mouth dumb and every eye rigid. He uttered a cry like a devil and jumped over the man who was in his way. The latter, however, when he saw his rival triumph, lost his head and the rope. He threw away his pole and fell off the rope like a whirlwind of arms and legs down into the depths. The marketplace and the people were like the sea when a storm comes on. Everything flew apart and over one another, and especially at the place where the body would crash down. The tightrope walker falls. He continues. Zarathustra, however, remained standing, and the body fell quite near him, badly injured and disfigured, but not yet dead. After a while, consciousness returned to the stricken man, and he saw Zarathustra kneeling beside him. He said at last, "What are you doing here? I have long known that the devil would trip me. Now he drags me to hell. Will you prevent him?" Zarathustra answered, "By my honor, friend, there is nothing of all that of which you speak. There is no devil and no hell. Your soul will be dead even before your body. Fear nothing further." The man looked up distrustfully. When he understood, he said, "If you speak the truth, I lose nothing when I lose my life. I am not much more than a beast that has been taught to dance by blows and a few morsels." Zarathustra answered, "Not at all. You have made danger your calling. There is nothing contemptible in that. Now you perish of your calling. Therefore I will bury you with my own hands." When Zarathustra had said this, the dying man answered no more. But he moved his hand as if seeking the hand of Zarathustra in gratitude. He moved his hand, seeking Zarathustra's ingratitude. He continues, "Meanwhile the evening came, and the marketplace was covered in darkness. Then the people scattered, for even curiosity and terror grow tired. But Zarathustra sat on the ground beside the dead man and was absorbed in thought. So he forgot the time. But at last it became night, and a cold wind blew upon the lonely one. Then Zarathustra rose and said to his heart, "Verily Zarathustra has had a fine catch of fish today, but a corpse. Human existence is uncanny and still without meaning. A gesture can become man's fatality. I will teach humans the meaning of their existence, which is the Overman, the lightning from the dark cloud, which is man. But I am still far from them, and my sense does not speak to their senses. I am a middle thing between a fool and a corpse. I am a middle thing between a fool and a corpse. Zarathustra, alone, with the body, at night, in the empty marketplace, understanding for the first time the distance between what he carries and what the crowd is willing to receive. He continues, companions I need, and living ones, not dead companions and corpses which I carry with me where I will, but living companions I need who follow me because they want to follow themselves, and who want to go where I want to go. I do not need companions. I need living ones who are following their own will. What does Zarathustra want? He says to his heart, I want to teach human beings the meaning of their existence, which is the Overman, but not to the many. Zarathustra shall be for the few. The creators I seek, those who are harvesting and celebrating together. I shall show them the rainbow and all the stairways to the Overman. I will sing my song to the lone wanderers and those who have ears for the unheard of. I want companions, not a flock. Come with me, Zarathustra. Come to the mountains, for I love you, O eternity. Come with me, Zarathustra. And so the prologue ends, Zarathustra, who came down with too much to give, who found the crowd wanting the last human being, not the Overman, who sat with the dead man through the night in the empty marketplace and understood. He needs different companions, not the crowd, the few, the creators, the ones who have ears for the unheard of. Nietzsche writes, of three metamorphoses of the spirit I tell you, how the spirit shall become a camel, and the camel a lion, and the lion at last a child. There is much that is difficult for the spirit, the strong, reverent spirit that would bear much. Its strength demands what is difficult and most difficult. What is difficult? Asks the spirit that bears much, and kneels down like a camel and wants to be loaded well. What is the most difficult, O heroes? Asks the spirit that would bear much, that I may take it upon me and rejoice in my strength. Is it not this, to abase oneself in order to wound one's pride? Is it not this, to let one's folly shine in order to mock one's wisdom? Is it not this, to desert our cause when it is celebrating its victory? Is it not this, to climb high mountains to tempt the tempter? All these most difficult things, the spirit that bears much takes upon itself, like the camel that when loaded hastens into the desert. So hastens the spirit into its desert. The camel, the first metamorphosis, the spirit that takes on weight, that accepts the burden, that carries what is hard. The student, the learner, the one who submits to tradition, to authority, to the accumulated wisdom of what has come before, and learns it, all of it, even the parts that are heavy. This is the camel, and the camel is necessary. You cannot skip it. He continues, but in the loneliest desert happens the second metamorphosis. Here the spirit becomes a lion. It wants to hunt down its freedom and be master in its own desert. It seeks here its last master, It wants to fight him and its last god. For victory, it wants to fight with the great dragon. Who is the great dragon whom the Spirit will no longer call Lord and God? You shalt is the name of the great dragon. But the spirit of the lion says, I will. The great dragon says, all value of things shines on me. All value has already been created, and I am all created value. Verily, there shall be no more I will. Thus speaks the dragon. My brothers, why is there a need for the lion in the spirit? Why is not the beast of burden, which renounces and is reverent enough to create new values that even the lion cannot do? But the creation of freedom for oneself, for new creation, that is within the power of the lion. The creation of freedom for oneself, and a sacred no even to duty. For that, my brothers, there is need of the lion. The lion says, I will. The second metamorphosis. The camel became the lion. The student became the one who says no to the accumulated weight, to the inherited values, to the you shalt. The lion does not yet create, but the lion makes space for creation by refusing, by the sacred no that clears the ground. He continues to seize the right for new values. That is the most terrifying seizure for a reverent spirit that bears much. Verily, to such a spirit, it is praying and the work of a beast of prey. It once loved the you shalt. Now it is forced to find illusion and arbitrariness even in the holiest things, that it may capture freedom from its love. For this capture of freedom there is need of the lion. But tell me, my brothers, what can the child do that even the lion could not do? Why must the praying lion still become a child? Innocence is the child and forgetting, a new beginning, a sport, a self-propelling wheel, a first movement, a sacred yes. For the sport of creation, my brothers, there is needed a sacred yes. The spirit now wills its own will, that had lost the world, now conquers its own world. Of three metamorphoses of the spirit, I have told you, how the spirit became a camel, and the camel a lion, and the lion at last a child. The lion at last a child, the third metamorphosis, the child who does not carry the weight of the past, who does not fight the old values, who simply creates, innocent, forgetful, beginning again. This is what the Overman is, not the lion, not even the lion, the child who plays, who creates, who says yes, without needing to say no first to everything that came before, because the lion already said it, and now the child is free to begin. Nietzsche writes, on the teachers of virtue, there is a wise man who sleeps well. He praises sleep, and it is a virtue to honor the night and the darkness. A man came to me who taught me, sleep is praiseworthy. He who first had a good sleep was a wise man. He said, I respect and esteem all those who do not wake themselves too early. I love all those who sleep heavily, for in sleep all things are possible, even what is impossible, even the Overman. And I thought to myself, this man has found what I am seeking, a good conscience before God. And I took him up in my arms and bore him to his couch and said, the world is perfect, thus says the man of deep faith. But Zarathustra smiled to himself and spoke thus to his heart, This man wants to sleep, but his wisdom will keep him awake. For his wisdom says, sleep is the highest virtue. Sleep well. But I, Zarathustra, say, sleep is the enemy of the awakened. For the awakened, there is only one virtue, to remain awake. To remain awake. He continues, on the afterworldly. At one time, Zarathustra also cast his fancy beyond the human being like all afterworldly. The work of a suffering and tortured God, the world then seemed to me. A dream it then seemed to me. A poetic fiction of a God. Colored smoke before the eyes of a divinely dissatisfied one. Good and evil and joy and suffering and I and you. Colored smoke seemed it all to me before creative eyes. The Creator wanted to look away from himself. Thereupon he created the world. A joyous intoxication it is for the sufferer to look away from his suffering and lose himself. A joyous intoxication and a losing of oneself, the world once seemed to me. This world eternally imperfect, the image of an eternal contradiction, an imperfect image, a joyous intoxication to its imperfect creator. Thus at one time did I also cast my fancy beyond the human being like all afterworldly, beyond the human being in truth, but then I laughed at my folly, at that fancy of mine, at the colored smoke of my God fever, for I recognized the suffering, the impotence, the folly in me that spoke of the beyond. Suffering and impotence, that created all afterworlds, the brief madness of happiness that only the greatest sufferer experiences, weariness that wants to get to the ultimate with one leap, with a death leap, a poor ignorant weariness that does not want to want anymore. This created all gods and afterworlds. The body I am, and the soul is only a word for something on the body. The body is a great intelligence, a plurality with one sense, a war and a peace, a herd and a herdsman. An instrument of your body is your little intelligence too, my brother, which you call spirit, a little instrument and toy of your great intelligence. You say I, and are proud of this word, but the greater thing in which you are unwilling to believe is your body and its great intelligence. It does not say I, but it does I. He continues, behind your thoughts and feelings, my brother, stands a mighty commander, an unknown sage, whose name is Self. In your body he dwells. He is your body. There is more intelligence in your body than in your best wisdom. And who knows for what purpose your body requires precisely your best wisdom. Your self laughs at your I and at its proud leapings. What are these leapings and flights of thought to me? It says to itself, a detour to my purpose. I am the leading strings of the I, and the prompter of its concepts. The self says to the I, feel pain here, and then the I suffers and thinks how it shall suffer no more. And for that very purpose it is meant to think. The self says to the I, feel pleasure here. Then the I rejoices and thinks how it shall rejoice often more. And for that very purpose it is meant to think. To the despisers of the body I will speak my word. I wish them neither to learn again nor to teach again, but only to bid farewell to their own bodies, and thus be dumb. Bid farewell to their own bodies and thus be dumb. Nietzsche's war against the contempt of the body, which runs through the entire book. The body is not the prison. The body is the self. The body is the great intelligence, and the soul, the spirit, the I are its instruments, not the other way around. Nietzsche writes, "There are still peoples and herds somewhere, but not with us, my brothers. Here there are states." A state? What is that? Well then, open your ears to me, for now I shall speak to you about the death of peoples. The state is the coldest of all cold monsters. Coldly it tells lies too, and this lie crawls out of its mouth. I, the state, am the people. It is a lie. It was creators who created peoples and hung a faith and a love over them. Thus they served life. It is destroyers who set traps for the many and call them states. They hang a sword and 100 lusts over them. Where there are still peoples, the state is not understood, but hated as the evil eye and as a sin against customs and rights. This sign I give to you: every people speaks its own language of good and evil. Its neighbor does not understand it. It invented its own language for customs and rights, but the state lies in all languages of good and evil, and whatever it says, it lies, and whatever it has stolen. Everything about it is false. It bites with stolen teeth. Even its belly is false. Confusion of language, of good and evil. This sign I give to you as the sign of the state. Verily, this sign indicates the will to death. Verily, it beckons to the preachers of death. Many, too many are born. The state was invented for the superfluous ones. Behold how it lures them in, the many too many, how it swallows and chews and re-chews them. On earth there is nothing greater than I. The governing finger of God am I. Thus roars the monster, and not only the long-eared and short-sighted fall on their knees. Ah, it whispers to you too, you great souls. Alas, it divines the rich hearts which like to squander themselves. Yes, it divines you too, you conquerors of the old God. You grew weary with the struggle, and now your weariness serves the new idol. Heroes and honorable men, it would like to range about it, this new idol. It likes to sun itself in the sunshine of good consciences. This cold monster, it will give you everything if you worship it, this new idol. Thus it buys for itself the luster of your virtue and the look of your proud eyes. It wants to use you to lure the many too many. Yes, a hellish artifice has been devised here, a death horse jingling with the trappings of divine honors. Yes, a dying for many has been devised here, which glorifies itself as life. Verily, a great service to all preachers of death. The state, I call it, where everyone drinks poison, whether good or bad. The state where everyone loses himself. The state where the slow suicide of all is called life. Just look at these superfluous people. They steal the works of inventors and the treasures of the wise. Culture they call their theft. And everything becomes sickness and trouble to them. Just look at these superfluous people. They are always ill. They vomit their bile and call it a newspaper, and cannot even digest themselves. The state is the coldest of all cold monsters. He continues, "Flee, my friend, into your solitude. I see you dazed by the noise of the great men, and stung all over by the stings of the little men. Forest and crag know well how to be silent with you. Be like the tree that you love with its broad branches. Silently and attentively it overhangs the sea. Where solitude ends, there begins the marketplace. And where the marketplace begins, there begins the noise of the great actors and the buzzing of the poisonous flies. In the world, even the best things are worthless, apart from the one who first presents them. Human beings call these great men. Little do they understand what is great, that is to say, the creating force. But they have an eye and ear for all presenters and actors of great things. Around the inventors of new values, the world revolves. Invisibly it revolves. But around the actors revolve the people and the fame. That is the way of the world. The actor has spirit, but little conscience of the spirit. He always believes in that with which he produces the strongest belief. Himself is tomorrow's faith. His spirit is the pride of his spirit. Tomorrow he has a new faith, and the day after tomorrow a newer one. He has a quick perception like the people he performs for, and a changeable manner. To overthrow means to him to prove. To drive to frenzy means to convince. And blood is the best of all arguments. Blood is the best of all arguments. The politician, the actor, the one who performs rather than creates. Nietzsche's contempt for the performer runs through everything he wrote. The person who believes what they say only as long as the audience believes it, who moves to the next belief when the audience moves, who mistakes the roar of the crowd for the voice of truth. He continues, "Flee, my friend, from the good and the just. They like to crucify those who invent their own virtue for themselves. They hate the solitary one. Flee also from holy simplicity. Everything that is not simple is unholy to it, and it likes to play with fire at those who are not simple. Flee also from the spectacle of the great struggle. It is full of hot air. I know the fighters. They love the cold as much as the fire. Only where the state ends does the man begin who is not superfluous. Only there begins the song of the necessary, the unique and irreplaceable melody. Where the state ends, look there, my brothers. Do you not see it? The rainbow and the bridges of the Overman? The rainbow and the bridges of the Overman. Where the state ends, the possibility begins. On the friend, our faith in others reveals the degree to which we want to have faith in ourselves. Have you a friend? Then spare him your enemy. You give your friend the right to hurt you, and your enemy gives himself the right. But you know what he wants. On love. There is something to the lover which is not found in one who only likes. The lover creates beyond himself. The one who only likes remains with himself. I love those who do not first seek a reason to go under and sacrifice themselves, but who sacrifice themselves to the earth, so that the earth may someday become the Overman's. I love the one who lives for knowledge, and who wants knowledge so that the Overman may live. I love the one who works and invents so as to build the house for the Overman, and to prepare earth animals and plants for him. For thus he wants to go under. I love the one who loves his virtue, for virtue is the will to go under and an arrow of longing. I love the one who does not keep back even a drop of spirit for himself, but wants to be entirely the spirit of his virtue. Thus he strides over the bridge as spirit. I love the one who out of his virtue makes his inclination and his catastrophe. For his virtue's sake, he wants to live and to live no more. I love the one who does not want to have too many virtues. One virtue is more virtue than two, because it is more of a knot for fate to cling to. I love the one whose soul squanders itself, who wants no thanks and gives nothing back. For he always bestows and does not want to preserve himself. I love the one who is ashamed when the dice fall to make his fortune, and who then asks, "Am I a dishonest player?" For he wants to go under. I love the one who scatters golden words before his deeds, and always does even more than he promises, for he wants to go under. I love the one who justifies the people of the future and redeems those of the past through those of the present. I love the one who chastises his God because he loves his God, for he must perish by the anger of his God. I love the one whose soul is deep even in the wound, and who can perish of a small experience. Thus he goes gladly over the bridge. I love the one whose soul is over full, so that he forgets himself, and all things are in him. Thus all things become his going under. I love the one who is free in spirit and free in heart. Thus his head is only the entrails of his heart, but his heart drives him to go under. I love all those who are like heavy drops falling one by one out of the dark cloud that hangs over the human being. They herald the lightning and perish as heralds. Look, I am a herald of the lightning and a heavy drop from the cloud. The lightning, however, is called Overman. The lightning is called Overman. He continues, on marriage. I have a question for the lonesome. Do you justify yourself in being lonesome? Has the hour not yet come for you to seek your own happiness in risking yourself for love? Many a short folly that is too short for a long love. I advise you, not a work, but a child, not just a work of art. I advise you to create beyond yourself, and therefore you must first learn to love. For the highest kind of love does not seek itself, it seeks to create. Marriage. So I call the will of two to create the one who is more than those who created it. Mutual respect for each other is what I call marriage, and also having the same will towards such a child. This is the meaning of marriage. But what do most people call marriage today? Alas, this poverty of soul in twain, this filth of soul in twain, this miserable ease in twain, marriage they call all this. And they say their marriages are made in heaven. Well, I don't like it. This heaven of the superfluous, no, I do not like them. These animals who are trapped in each other with their heaven of the superfluous. Their heaven of the superfluous. Nietzsche on marriage. Not against marriage. Against the small marriage, the comfortable marriage, the marriage of convenience, of social arrangement, of mutual dependency, without the higher purpose, the marriage that creates something beyond the two people, This he calls the highest, the marriage that traps, that shrinks, that reduces both people to something smaller than they were alone. This he cannot celebrate. Nietzsche writes, "When Zarathustra had taken leave of the town to which his heart was attached, and which was named the Motley Cow, many people who called themselves his disciples followed him and escorted him. Thus they came to a crossroads, and Zarathustra told them that he now wanted to walk alone, for he was fond of walking alone. His disciples, however, gave him at his departure a staff, on the upper end of which a golden sun disk was fixed. Zarathustra rejoiced over the staff and leaned upon it. Then he spoke thus to his disciples, 'Tell me, how did gold come to have the highest value? Because it is uncommon and useless, and gleaming and gentle in its luster. It always gives itself. Only as the image of the highest virtue did gold come to have the highest value. Golden the look is of the gift-giving. The golden luster makes peace between moon and sun. Uncommon is the highest virtue, and useless, gleaming and gentle in its luster. A gift-giving virtue is the highest virtue. Verily I divine you well, my disciples. You strive as I do for the gift-giving virtue. What would you have in common with cats and wolves? This is your thirst to become sacrifices and gifts yourselves, and therefore you thirst to amass all riches in your soul. Insatiably your soul strives for treasures and jewels, because your virtue is insatiable in wanting to give. You compel all things to flow toward you and into you, so that they shall flow back again out of your fountain as the gifts of your love. Verily, such a gift-giving love must become a thief of all values. But I call this selfishness wholesome and holy. There is another selfishness too poor, too hungry, that always wants to steal. The selfishness of the sick, the selfishness of the weary and hollow. With the eye of a thief, it looks at all that is lustrous. With the greed of hunger, it estimates him who has abundance. But tell me, my brothers, what is considered exemplary in your environment? Even if you want to speak of gift-giving, your gaze should be frank and pure, and the skin of your hands should be smooth. The gift-giving virtue also has a luster, but when it has not the luster, it withers. Give the gift as the sun gives, not as darkness gives. The sun gives to all, without asking, without conditions, without counting the cost. This is the gift-giving virtue. This is the highest virtue. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Thus spoke Zarathustra. He continues, after Zarathustra had thus spoken to his disciples, he was silent for a time, and felt delight at those around him. He looked with love on his disciples, and then said, "Remain faithful to the earth, my brothers, with the power of your virtue. Let your gift-giving love and your knowledge serve towards the meaning of the earth. Thus I beg and beseech you, do not let it fly away from the earthly things and beat with its wings against eternal walls. Alas, there has always been so much flown-away virtue. Lead back to the earth the flown-away virtue as I do, back to the body, back to life, that it may give its meaning to the earth, a human meaning. I am Zarathustra the godless, who speaks thus. Who is more godless than I? But who then is my equal in godlessness, to whom I shall give himself as teacher? Go now alone, my disciples. I want you to do so. Truly I counsel you, depart from me and resist Zarathustra. And even better, be ashamed of him. Perhaps he has deceived you. The man of knowledge must not only love his enemies, he must also be able to hate his friends. One repays a teacher badly if one always remains a student only. And why do you not want to pluck at my wreath? You revere me, but what if your reverence tumbles one day? Beware lest the statue crush you. You say you believe in Zarathustra, but what does Zarathustra matter? You are my believers, but what do all believers matter? You had not yet sought yourselves when you found me. Now, I bid you lose me and find yourselves. And only then, when you have all denied me, will I return to you. With different eyes shall I then seek my lost ones. With a different love shall I then love you, my brothers. And once again you shall have become friends to me and the children of one hope. And then shall I be with you a third time, to celebrate the great noon with you. And that is the great noon, when the human being stands in the middle of his way, between beast and overman, and celebrates his way to the evening as his highest hope. For it is the way to a new morning. At such time will the going under of the going under glorify itself, and the going over for the sake of the overman. And thus spoke Zarathustra. And thus spoke Zarathustra. The instruction to the disciples, not follow me, not believe in me, lose me, find yourselves, deny me, and then I will return. The teacher who teaches by demanding that you stop needing the teacher. The only honest instruction that any teacher has ever given. That is the end. Part 1 of Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, published 1883. And what has Nietzsche given us? He has given us a prophet, not a god, not a saint, not a system, not a set of rules, a prophet who descends from a mountain with too much wisdom and tries to give it away to a crowd that wants the last human being, not the overman, who sits with a dead man in an empty marketplace at night and understands that the wisdom cannot be given to the many, only to the few, the creators, the ones who have ears for the unheard of. And what did he teach? Three Metamorphoses: the camel who carries, the lion who refuses, the child who creates. One must have chaos to give birth to a dancing star. Remain faithful to the earth. The state is the coldest of all cold monsters. The overman is the meaning of the earth. And most importantly, most honestly, the instruction to his disciples: lose me, find yourselves, deny me. This is the teacher who teaches independence. The philosopher who demands that you become your own philosopher, who gives you nothing to believe in except yourself and your own capacity to create. Part 2 is coming, where Zarathustra goes deeper into the eternal recurrence, into the will to power, into the great noon, and into the loneliness of the person who carries something the world is not yet ready for. Stay with me. I'm Jamil, and this is The Classic Mind. Welcome back to The Classic Mind. Part 1 gave us the beginning, Zarathustra descending from his mountain, with too much wisdom and too few people strong enough to receive it. the Overman, who is not a race, not a master, but the person who has overcome themselves, the last human being who has invented happiness and blinks, the Three Metamorphoses, the camel who carries, the lion who refuses, the child who creates, and the most honest instruction any teacher ever gave: lose me, find yourselves, deny me, and only then will I return. Part 2 goes deeper, into the loneliness of giving, into the will to power, into the question of whether the past can ever be redeemed, and into the most important thing Zarathustra ever says: the will cannot will backwards. This is part 2 of Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche writes, "After this Zarathustra went back again into the mountains and to the solitude of his cave, and withdrew himself from the people, waiting like a sower who has scattered his seed. His soul, however, became full of impatience and longing for those whom he loved, for he still had much to give them. This is the hardest thing, to close the open hand out of love and to keep the gift." Thus for Zarathustra, months and years passed. His wisdom grew, however, and caused him pain by its fullness. One morning he woke before the rosy dawn, and having reflected a long time, spoke thus to his heart: "Why did I startle when I looked at that child? A child came to me carrying a mirror, and it said to me, 'Zarathustra, look at yourself in the mirror.' But when I looked at myself in the mirror, I was startled, and my heart shook. For I did not see myself, but a devil's grimace and derision. Truly I understand the sign and warning of the dream all too well. My teaching is in danger. Weeds want to be called wheat. My enemies have grown powerful and have distorted the image of my teaching, so that my dearest ones must be ashamed of the gifts I gave them. My friends are lost to me. The hour has come to seek my lost ones. The hour has come to seek my lost ones." He continues, "With these words Zarathustra started up, not however with the look of one in distress seeking his servants. On the contrary, his eyes shone with the brightness and strength of a morning that is newly broken. 'It is time,' he said. 'It is high time. But let me first go to the blessed islands, to my friends, and then back over the great sea. Between me and them lies the great sea that rises up to separate us. I must cross it. I must go to my friends again. For what would I be if I remained alone? The tree on the hillside gives its shade to the valley, but what would the tree be without the valley? I give of my wisdom, but what would my wisdom be without those who can receive it? He is still poor who gives alone, and has no one who gives back. He is still poor who gives alone. The wound of Zarathustra, not poverty of things, poverty of reception. The one who gives and has no one to give back, who teaches and has no one who teaches in return, who is generous and has no one whose generosity enriches him. This is Zarathustra's loneliness, not solitude, not the peaceful aloneness of the mountain, the aloneness of the gift that finds no hand." Nietzsche writes, "The figs are falling from the trees. They are good and sweet, and as they fall, their red skin bursts. I am a north wind to ripe figs. Thus, like figs, these teachings fall to you, my friends. Now drink their juice and their sweet flesh. It is autumn all around, and clear sky and afternoon. Look what fullness is around us. And out of overfullness it is beautiful to look out upon distant seas. Once people said God when they looked out upon distant seas. But now I have taught you to say Overman. God is a conjecture, but I do not wish your conjecturing to reach beyond your creating will. Could you create a God? Then do not speak to me of any gods. But you could well create the Overman, not perhaps you yourselves, my brothers, but into fathers and forefathers of the Overman could you transform yourselves, and let that be your best creating. God is a conjecture, but I will that your conjecturing be bounded by conceivability. But let the will to truth mean this to you, that everything be transformed into the humanly conceivable, humanly visible, humanly sensible. Your own senses shall you think to their end, and what you have called the world shall but be created by you. Your reason, your likeness, your will, your love shall it itself become. And truly for your bliss, you knowers, the beauty of the Overman came to me as a shadow. Oh, my brothers, what are the gods to me now? What are the gods to me now? He continues, Thus spoke Zarathustra on the blessed islands. And there Zarathustra spoke again and turned to his disciples. Fellow creators, the Creator seeks, and those who write new values on new tables. Fellow creators, Zarathustra seeks. Fellow harvesters and fellow rejoicers, Zarathustra seeks. What has he to do with herds and herdsmen and corpses? And you who are first companions, I want you to be that and better creators than I am. Thus shall you want and will and love. And only where there are tombs are there resurrections. Thus sang Zarathustra. Fellow creators the Creator seeks, not followers, not believers, not the ones who repeat what they have been told. Creators, who write new values on new tables, who make something new from the chaos that is in them, something that was not there before. This is what Zarathustra seeks. From all his travels, from all his teaching, not a flock. Fellow creators, Nietzsche writes, My friends, your friend has heard a mocker saying, Look at Zarathustra. Does he not walk among us as if among animals? But it is better said thus, The discerning one walks among humans as among animals. To the discerning one himself, the human being is called the red-cheeked animal. How did that originate? Is it not because the human being has had to be ashamed too oft? Oh, my friends, thus speaks the discerning one. Shame, shame, shame. That is the history of the human being, and therefore the noble one bids himself not to abash. He bids himself to have consideration for all who suffer. Verily, I like them not the merciful ones, whose bliss is in their pity. Too destitute are they in shame. If I must be pitiful, I do not like to be called so, and if I am, it is usually from a distance. I also like to cover my head and flee before being recognized. And thus I bid you do, my friends. May your love to the living one be an envy. Envy what is alive. Thus speak I to those who are my friends. Envy what is alive. He continues, But I have another enemy too whom I love. His name is pity. Pity, the great dragon that Zarathustra fights. Not because suffering does not exist. It exists abundantly, honestly, in every human life. but pity, the kind of pity that wallows in suffering, that multiplies it, that makes itself comfortable in it, that calls the suffering of others its own feeling. This pity Zarathustra cannot love, because the one who pities adds their own suffering to the suffering they observe, and produces more suffering, not less, and calls this compassion. Zarathustra says, "My compassion is not a crucifixion. I do not nail myself to the suffering of others. I offer what I have, from the overflow, from the abundance, not from the wound. Give from strength, not from guilt." This is the difference between the gift-giving virtue and the pity of the poor. Not from guilt, he continues. Thus spoke Zarathustra to his disciples concerning pity, and his disciples were troubled. And one of them said, "But what of those who suffer greatly? Shall we turn away from them?" Zarathustra said, "I did not say turn away. I said do not be destroyed by them. The one who bends down to lift another must be strong enough to straighten up again. The one who gives their coat in winter must have a coat to give. The pity I distrust is the pity of the one who has nothing and gives nothing but the performance of feeling, who stands near the suffering and calls the standing near a gift, who says, "I understand your pain," and understands nothing and gives nothing, and goes home satisfied that they have been compassionate. This is not compassion. This is theater. The strongest compassion is the one that produces something, that does the thing that helps, without the performance, without the drama of feeling, silently, effectively, and moves on. Silently, effectively, and moves on. Nietzsche writes, "And once Zarathustra gave his disciples a sign and spoke these words to them, 'Here are priests, and although they are my enemies, pass them quietly and with sleeping swords. Even among them there are heroes. Many of them have suffered too much, so they want to make others suffer. Bad enemies are they. Nothing is more revengeful than their meekness, and readily does whoever attacks them soil himself. But my blood is related to theirs, and I want withal to see my blood honored in theirs. Yes, it grieves me to see them. They will to me as my own blood, and of my blood. Thus they shall be honored by Zarathustra, for they have been seekers. Although they went astray, they sought God earnestly for a long time, with everything they had, and some of them died for this seeking before they found what they were looking for, which was not God, but themselves. Zarathustra does not condemn them for this. He honors the seeking and mourns the misdirection. He honors the seeking and mourns the misdirection. He continues, "They wrote tablets of overcoming, all the I wills and I shalls of these I wills and I shalls. They wrote, 'You shalt obey, you shall not kill, you shall not steal.' And I asked them, 'Why should I?' And they said, 'Because God commands it.' And I said, 'But you told me God is love. Why does love command?' And they had no answer. That would not destroy the very love they were claiming. Zarathustra is not against virtue. He is against the virtue that cannot explain itself, the virtue that demands obedience without understanding, the virtue that threatens punishment for disobedience, the virtue that says, 'Be good or else.' This is not virtue. This is fear, in virtue's clothes. The virtue Zarathustra seeks is the virtue that needs no enforcer, that comes from the self that has chosen it, because it understood, because it felt, because it willed to be that way, not because it was told, but because it chose. Not because it was told, but because it chose. Nietzsche writes, "There are those who call it virtue when their vices grow lazy, and when their hatred and jealousy stretch themselves and make themselves comfortable, they call that justice. And when their sloth is asleep, they call it diligence. And even the god of sloth they call great. There are others who go down to their virtues as one goes down to a cellar. They go down to be safe, to be hidden, to be warm. And when they congratulate themselves on their safety and warmth and comfort, they call this virtue. I do not like those who call every slow movement virtue, and those who call every sleeping peace. There are others, again, who are dragged along like a chain by their virtue, like the dog that is led by its master. They do not choose their virtue, they are dragged by it. And even they call this virtue. I like it better when virtue swings like a dancer, when it is the strength that creates, not the weight that drags. I love the virtue that goes lightly, that does not pile up, that does not demand, the virtue of the dancer, not the virtue of the monk, the virtue of the dancer, not the virtue of the monk. He continues, "And to you, my friends, I speak this word. Do not let your virtue become a cage, or a chain, or a Sunday coat that you take off at home and live without. Your virtue should be yourself, and yourself your virtue, not a rule imposed from outside, a truth that wells up from inside, not a you shalt, an I will, not an obligation, a joy. The virtue of the dancer is joyful. It moves lightly. It does not ask permission. It does not look around to see if it is being watched. It simply dances, because dancing is what it is. This is the virtue Zarathustra loves, the virtue that has forgotten it is virtue, because it has become the self, fully, completely, without the gap between what you believe and how you live. The virtue that has forgotten it is virtue, because it has become the self." Nietzsche writes, "Life is a well of delight, but where the rabble also drinks, all wells are poisoned. I am fond of all that is clean, but I do not like to see the grinning mouths and the thirst of the unclean. They cast their eye down into the well, and now their disgusting smile shines up to me out of the well. The holy water have they poisoned with their lustfulness, and when they called their filthy dreams delight, they poisoned also the language. The flame is vexed when their moist hearts come near to the fire. The spirit itself bubbles and smokes where the rabble steps to the fire. The fruit becomes mellow and soft in their hands. Their look makes the fruit tree storm-beaten and bare at the top. And to some who have turned away from life, have they turned away only from the rabble. They were unwilling to share well and flame and fruit with the rabble. And so I also turned away from life when I saw the rabble. What happened then to me? Went I entirely away from life? And thus I stood and asked and could not be answered. Why did I turn away? Was it because of the smell, or the sound, or the look? I know not, I cannot say. Only this, I turned away, and I could not drink from the well, and I sat down beside the well, waiting, and at last light came to me, and Zarathustra spoke to his heart. What concerned me so much? What has revolted me so? Ah, now I have it. The rabble will have their share too. The rabble will also drink. And I am not willing to give away my overflow and superfluity to every thirsty person. That is my poverty. That I am not willing to give to all. But what is my poverty but the inability of the noble heart to share itself with those who would take it and feel nothing? What is my suffering but the suffering of the giver who has found no worthy receiver? What is my suffering but the suffering of the giver who has found no worthy receiver? He continues, and then he said again to his heart, Nay, I am fond of them, the wild forests and the barren rocks, the heaths and the heavens. Oh, that I were a tree yonder in the forest, with those thick, gnarled roots. I want to sit no more beside the poisoned well. I will go to where no one goes to drink, to the open sea, where there are no people, where the water is not yet poisoned. There I will give, to the sea that can receive anything, and be not diminished, and not poisoned. The sea receives all rivers, and is not made lesser by them, nor foul. I want to be like the sea, to give, without diminishment, without the horror of seeing the gift received badly. Thus I console myself in my poverty. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Thus I console myself in my poverty. Nietzsche writes, Look, there is the tarantula's den. Do you want to see the tarantula itself? Here hangs its web. Touch it, that it may tremble. There it comes willingly. Welcome, tarantula. Black is your triangle and mark on your back. And I know also what is in your soul. Revenge is in your soul wherever you bite. Where you bite, black scabs grow. With revenge, your poison makes the soul giddy. I speak to you in a parable. You preachers of equality, to me you are tarantulas, and secretly revengeful. But I will bring your hiding places to the light. Therefore I laugh in your faces with my laughter of the heights. Therefore I pull at your webs, that your rage may lure you out of your lying, and your revenge may leap forth from behind your word justice. For that man be delivered from revenge, that is for me the bridge to the highest hope, and a rainbow after long storms. The tarantulas, of course, would have it otherwise. What justice means to us is precisely this, that the world be filled with the storms of our revenge. Thus do they talk to each other. Revenge will we use and insult against all who are not our equals, and will to power, thus do the weakest call it, but only because they want that which the powerful have. Equality, thus do the weakest cry, but they mean revenge. They mean, we want what you have, and since we cannot take it, we will make having it shameful. We will call your excellence a sin. We will call your strength a danger. We will call your beauty a privilege. And we will legislate until everyone is the same, equal, as low as the lowest. This they call justice, but I call it the tarantula's bite. I call it the tarantula's bite. He continues, but thus I counsel you, my friends, distrust all in whom the impulse to punish is powerful. They are people of bad race and lineage. Out of their countenances peer the hangman and the sleuth-hound. Distrust all those who talk much of their justice. Verily, in their faces I see it laughing. Their cold eyes are not those of justice. Distrust those who readily fly into a rage, who, with their rage, want to justify themselves, because their rage says, I have been wronged, and therefore I am right. But being wrong does not make one right, and the desire for revenge, dressed as justice, is still the desire for revenge. And I say to you, for man to be redeemed from revenge, that is for me the bridge to the highest hope. This I teach, this alone, that the will must learn to will forward, not backward, to say not, it was, but thus I willed it, thus I will it, thus shall I will it. This is redemption, this alone, not the equality of the tarantula, not the revenge of the injured, the forward willing of the free spirit. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Nietzsche writes, why do you live? I am ashamed of my living. Life is only an experiment of the knower, and not a good one at that. Thus speaks one famous man to another, and they laugh together. But there are other famous men who do not laugh at all, who take their fame with the gravity of monuments, who stand in the marketplace of their age and believe that the marketplace is the world. These famous men I distrust most of all. The fame of the marketplace is a noisy business, and the noise of it drowns the voice that matters. Zarathustra says, the most famous men I have found to be the least admirable, because fame requires the crowd, and the crowd requires simplification, and simplification requires that the true thing be made smaller, easier, more digestible, until what is celebrated bears no resemblance to what was. The true great man is rarely famous in his own time. The famous man is rarely great. The true great man is rarely famous in his own time. He continues, on great events, there is an island in the sea, not far from the blessed islands of Zarathustra, on which a volcano smokes continually. Of this the people say that it is placed before the gateway of the underworld, and the narrow path that leads down to this gateway of the underworld passes through the island of the fire dog, around whom all rumbles and tumbles and smells of sulfur. And I asked the fire dog, thy noise you makest me believe you art mightier than you art. And then spoke the fire dog, I am really great. I foam and bubble and rumble and heave. And Zarathustra said, but there are greater ones, quieter ones. The greatest events, they are not our noisiest, but are still ours. Not around the inventors of new noise, but around the inventors of new values does the world revolve. Inaudibly it revolves. And admit it, little had always happened when your noise and smoke dispersed. What does it matter if a town became mummified or a statue lay in the mud? And this word I say to the levelers too, the maddest lies are the stillest. It is the still hour that does the most, not the volcano, but the glacier. not the explosion, but the long, slow pressure of what is patient and does not announce itself. This is the great event, always, the one that no one sees coming, because it makes no noise until it has already happened. The great event makes no noise until it has already happened. Nietzsche writes, "It is night. Now do all gushing fountains speak louder, and my soul also is a gushing fountain. It is night. Only now do all songs of the loving ones awaken, and my soul also is the song of a loving one. Something unassuaged, unassuageable is within me. It wants to speak out. A craving for love is within me, which itself speaks the language of love. I am light. Ah, that I were night. But this is my loneliness, that I am girt with light. Ah, that I were dark and nightly. How would I suck at the breasts of light? And you yourselves, would I bless you, twinkling starlights and glowworms above, and be happy in your gifts of light. But I live in my own light. I drink back into myself the flames that break from me. I know not the happiness of the receiver, and oft have I dreamt that stealing must be more blessed than receiving. It is my poverty that my hand never rests from giving. It is my envy that I see waiting eyes and illumined nights of longing. O wretchedness of all givers! O darkening of my sun! O craving to crave! O ravenous hunger in satiety! They take from me, but do I yet touch their souls? There is a gap between giving and receiving, and I bridge it endlessly, without arriving. O loneliness of all givers! My happiness in bestowing died in bestowing. My virtue tired of itself in its overflow. The danger of the bestower is that he loses his shame. To him who distributes callousness in hand become part of the distribution. His eye no longer overflows at the sight of the beseeching. His heart no longer thrills at voices of the desiring. The virtue of giving can make the giver a stranger to need and a stranger to beauty, because he has given so much beauty away. O loneliness of all givers! O silence of all light givers! Many suns circle in void space. To all that is dark do they speak with their light. To me they are silent. Oh, this is the enmity of light towards the shining. Merciless doth it pursue its course, unfair to the shining one in its innermost heart, cold to the suns. Thus travels every sun. Like a storm the suns pursue their courses. That is their traveling. Their inexorable will is their traveling. Oh, it is only you dark ones, you nightly ones, that extract warmth from the shining. It is you only that drink milk and refreshment from the udders of light. Ah, there is ice all around me, my hand burneth from the iciness. Ah, there is thirst in me, which longeth after your thirst. It is night. Ah, that I have to be light, and thirst for the nightly, and loneliness. It is night. Now doth my longing break forth in me as a fountain, a longing for speech. 'Tis night. Now do all gushing fountains speak louder, and my soul also is a gushing fountain. It is night, and my soul also is a gushing fountain. Stop, the night song, the loneliest speech in the entire book. Zarathustra, who gives light, who radiates, who illuminates, who cannot receive light, because he is light, the giver who cannot be given to, the teacher who cannot be taught, the one who loves who cannot be loved in the way he loves, because love requires giving and receiving equally. And Zarathustra has so much to give that no one can match it, and so he is always the giver, never the receiver, and the giving which should be joy has become loneliness. This is the cost of extraordinary capacity, not the envy of others, not the misunderstanding of the crowd, the loneliness of the person who has more to give than anyone around them can receive, and who lies awake at night, listening to the fountains, wanting to be dark, just for one night, so that someone might give light to him. Nietzsche writes, "One evening went Zarathustra and his disciples through the forest, and when he sought a well, behold, there he found a group of girls dancing together. As soon as the girls recognized Zarathustra, they ceased dancing. Zarathustra, however, approached them with friendly mien and spoke these words, 'Do not leave off dancing, you lovely maidens. No game spoiler has come to you with evil eye. No enemy of girls. God's advocate am I before the devil. But the devil is the spirit of gravity. How could I, you light-footed ones, be an enemy of divine dancing, or of girls' feet with fine ankles? To be sure, I am a forest and a night of dark trees. But he who is not afraid of my darkness will find banks full of roses under my cypresses, and the little god shall he find too, whom maidens like best of all. He lies beside the well, stilly with eyes shut. Verily in broad daylight did he fall asleep, the sluggard. Did he run after butterflies too much? You beautiful dancers, if I punish the little god a little, he will cry and weep. But he shall laugh when he weeps, and with tears in his eyes shall he dance for you. I myself will sing a song for you, a dancing and mocking song on the spirit of gravity. My highest and strongest devil, of whom they say that he is the master of the world. And this is the song of Zarathustra's dancing. Into thine eye gazed I lately, O life, and into the unfathomable did I seem to sink. But you pulsed me out with a golden angle rod. Mockingly didst you laugh when I called thee unfathomable. Such is the nature of all fish, you said. They do not understand the water in which they swim. So I was wise about it too. I and life are old friends, but I cannot name thee. But you saidst to me, be then not ashamed of gratitude. It is not a small thing for a proud man to be grateful. And Zarathustra answered life, yes, you art right, O life, and I know what you meanest. I will forget thee also, and if you hast forgotten me, you canst tell me so, and I shall come again. So I shall come again to thee, you life unfathomable, and I shall bring thee a gift. You and I, we will dance around the tree of life at the great noon, and around the tree of knowledge, and around the well of eternity. And we will laugh together without shame. We will laugh together without shame. He continues, thus is life, spoke Zarathustra once, and she laughed in my face. For I said to her, life, I am yours as long as I breathe. And she laughed back and said, you men, you are never faithful. You do not know me yet. But I laughed also, and I said, I know thee well, O life, better than you thinkest, better than you wouldest wish to be known. I know thine gold and thy night darkness, and thy melancholy. I know thy midnight stars, thy silence, thy tears, and thy laughter. And you knowest not perhaps that you art myself. For all things deep love I, as I love thee, and in all thy depths is my own reflection. In all thy depths is my own reflection. Life is Zarathustra's mirror, not an opponent, not a test, not a burden to be endured, a reflection of himself. And he loves what he sees, even the darkness, even the melancholy, even the midnight, because it is his. This is amor fati, the love of fate, the love of what is, not despite the darkness, with the darkness included, the yes that Nietzsche has been building toward through everything. Nietzsche writes, "There is the Isle of Graves, there is the silent isle. There also are the sepulchres of my youth. There will I carry an evergreen garland of life. Resolving thus in my heart did I pass over the sea. O ye visions and apparitions of my youth! O all ye glances of love, ye divine impulses! How quickly did ye die away from me! I think of you today as my dead ones. From you, my dearest dead ones, comes to me a sweet odor. It loosens heart and tears. Verily, it convulses and loosens the heart of the lone seafarer. Still am I the richest and most to be envied when I think of you. It was to you that the young age gave itself, and when you died away, it seemed to me as if the young age died with you. Not the pain, nor the loss, nor the murder of my youth grieves me most. What grieves me most is that I could not keep you. I would have saved you, but I could not. And then afterwards, I no longer had the strength, because the murderer came. Not a man, not an idea, time itself. Time, the murderer of all youth. Time, the thief of all possibility. And against time, even Zarathustra cannot fight. He can only grieve and carry the garland and remember. O purity, O innocence, O youth, all gone now, but not forgotten, never forgotten. And sometimes, on quiet evenings beside the sea, Zarathustra hears them still, the voices of his dead ones, saying, "We were real, we were yours, we loved you." And Zarathustra says back, I know, and I carry you still into all my going forward. You are in every yes I have ever said. Nietzsche writes, "Will to truth do ye call it, ye wisest ones, that which impelleth you and maketh you ardent. Will for the thinkability of all being, that is what I call your will. All being would ye make thinkable. For ye doubt with good reason whether it be already thinkable. But it shall accommodate and bend itself to you. So willeth your will. Smooth shall it become, and subject to the Spirit as its mirror and reflection. That is your entire will, ye wisest ones, as a will to power. And even when you speak of good and evil and of estimates of value, ye create still the world before which you can bow. This is your secret love, ye wisest ones, and it is called will to power. Will to power, I say, not the will to dominate, not the will to conquer, not the will of the tyrant over the weak, the will of everything living to express itself, to expand, to grow, to become more than it was. The tree wills to grow, not to rule. The river wills to reach the sea, not to drown the land. The human being wills to create, to love, to know, to become. This is the will to power in its truest form. Not power over others, power over oneself. The power to create new values. The power to say yes when everything says no. The power to grow beyond what you were yesterday. This is what Zarathustra means by the will to power. Nothing else. Whoever tells you differently has not read carefully. Whoever tells you differently has not read carefully. He continues, and life itself told me this secret. Behold, said she, I am that which must always overcome itself. Indeed, ye call it will to create or impulse towards a goal, towards the higher, remoter, more varied. But all that is one, and one secret. Rather would I succumb than disown this one thing. And verily, where there is succumbing and leaf falling, lo, there doth life sacrifice itself for power. That I have to be struggle and becoming and purpose and cross-purpose. Ah, he who divines my will doth divine also, on what crooked paths it has to tread. Whatever I create, and however much I love it, soon must I be adversary to it, and to my love. So willeth my will. Even you, knower, art only a path and footstep of my will. Verily, my will to power walketh even on the feet of thy will to truth. He certainly hit the truth who shot at it the formula, will to existence, that is will to lie. Not to preserve oneself, but to overcome oneself, that is the will to power. And life itself whispered thus to me. Thus spake Zarathustra, not to preserve oneself, but to overcome oneself. Nietzsche writes, hushed is the sea, all glittering sleepeth the sea. Strangely doth the glance speak which looketh at me from its marble shores with dark eyes. Strange, still, and profound. Calm is the air above me. Not even a bird may fly there. Nothing hath ever ventured here. There is only marble. Like marble is even man. Still hath he not overcome himself. He standeth there in his pride with his armor on, his sword, his shield, looking outward toward his enemies. But I see no enemies. I see only pride. He is sublime, but sublime is not enough. Beauty must win him also. For beauty is more than the sublime. The sublime says, this is serious. The beautiful says, this is worth it. And seriousness without beauty becomes heaviness, and heaviness is the spirit of gravity, which is Zarathustra's great devil. The man of the sublime bends under the weight of his seriousness. He cannot dance. And Zarathustra says, I would believe only in a God who knows how to dance. The sublime man must learn this, that to take life seriously is not to take it heavily, that the highest things can be carried lightly, that the truth does not need a furrowed brow to be the truth, and that beauty, not seriousness, is the highest confirmation that a thing is worth pursuing. For the beautiful needs no justification. The sublime always needs to explain itself. The beautiful simply is, and that is enough. I would believe only in a God who knows how to dance. When Zarathustra went one day over the great bridge, the cripples and beggars surrounded him, and a hunchback spoke to him thus, Behold Zarathustra, even the people learn from thee and acquire faith in thy teaching. But for them to believe fully in thee, one thing is still needful. You must first of all convince us cripples. Here hast you now a fine selection, and verily an opportunity with more than one forelock. The blind you canst heal, and make the lame run. And from him who hath too much behind, you couldst well take away a little. That I think would be the right method to make the cripples believe in Zarathustra. And Zarathustra answered thus to him who so spoke, When one taketh his hump from the humpback, one taketh from him his spirit. So do the people teach. And when one giveth the blind man eyes, he seeth too many bad things on earth, so that he curseth him who healed him. He, however, who maketh the lame man run, inflicteth upon him the greatest injury. For hardly can he run when his vices run away with him. So do the people learn about Zarathustra. And why should Zarathustra not learn from the people, when the people learn from Zarathustra? It is, however, the smallest thing unto me, since I have been amongst men, to see this one lacketh an eye, and that one an ear, and a third lacketh a leg, while there are others who have lost the tongue, or the nose, or the head. I see and have seen worse things and divers things, so hideous, that I should neither like to speak of all matters, nor even be silent about some of them. Men who lack everything except one thing of which they have too much. Men who are nothing more than a great eye, or a great mouth, or a great belly, or something else great. Reverse cripples I call such men. And when I came out of my solitude, and for the first time passed over this bridge, then I could not trust my eyes, and looked again, and said at last, That is an ear as big as a man. I looked still more carefully, and actually there did move under the ear something that was pitiably small, and poor, and slim. And in truth, this immense ear was perched on a small, thin stalk. The stalk, however, was a man. A person who looked through a glass could even recognize further a small, envious countenance, and also that a bloated solet dangled at the stalk. The people told me, however, that the great ear was not only a man, but a great man, a genius. But I never believed in the people when they spake of great men. And I hold to my belief that it is a reverse cripple who hath too little of everything and too much of one thing. Too little of everything and too much of one thing. He continues, When Zarathustra had so spoken to the cripple, and to those of whom the cripple was the mouthpiece and advocate, he turned to his disciples in profound dejection and said, Verily, my friends, I walk amongst men as amongst the fragments and limbs of human beings. This is the terrible thing to my eye, that I find man broken up and scattered about as on a battle and slaughter field. And when mine eye fleeth from the present to the bygone, it findeth ever the same, fragments and limbs and fearful chances. But the worst thing for me to think is this, the past. To redeem what is past, and to transform every it was into a thus would I have it. That only do I call redemption. Will, so is the emancipator and joy-bringer called. Thus I taught you, my friends. But now learn this in addition. The will itself is still a prisoner. Willing emancipateth. But what is that called which still putteth the emancipator in chains. It was, that is the name of the will's gnashing of teeth and lonesomest tribulation, powerless with respect to what hath been done. It is a malicious spectator of all that is past. The will cannot will backwards, and that it cannot break time and time's concupiscence. That is the will's lonesomest tribulation. Willing emancipateth. What doth willing devise for itself to get free from its tribulation, and to mock its prison? Alas, every prisoner becometh a fool. In a foolish manner delivereth itself the imprisoned will. That time doth not run backwards. That is its animosity. The will, that is the liberator and joy-bringer. I taught you that, friends. But now learn this in addition. The will itself is still a prisoner. Willing emancipateth. But what is it called that putteth even the emancipator in fetters? It was. That is the name of the will's gnashing of teeth and lonesomest tribulation. Powerless against what hath been done, it is a malicious spectator of all that is past. The will cannot will backwards. That it cannot break time and time's concupiscence. That is the will's lonesomest tribulation. The will cannot will backwards. Stop. The most important sentence in the entire book. The will cannot will backwards. The past is fixed, cannot be changed, cannot be undone, cannot be reached by the will. And this is the will's deepest suffering. The thing it cannot change, cannot overcome, cannot create its way out of. The it was that sits there, immovable, permanent, accusing. And what does the will do with what it cannot change? Nietzsche says most people do two things. They suffer under the weight of the past, under the shame, the regret, the accumulated it was that they cannot undo, or they take revenge on the present, on others, on life itself, for the fact that the past cannot be changed, and call this revenge justice, or morality, or virtue. But Zarathustra says there is a third way. He continues, to redeem those who lived in the past, and to recreate all it was into a thus I willed it. That alone should I call redemption. Will, so is the emancipator and joy-bringer called. This is the doctrine I give you, my friends. Not that the past be forgotten, not that the wound be denied, but that the will learns to say of even the worst, thus I willed it. Not, I wish it had not happened, but it happened. It is mine. I take it. I own it. Thus I willed it, and thus shall I will it. And in the willing of it, the it was becomes the I will. The prison becomes the gate. The wound becomes the door. The past becomes the ground from which the future grows. This is redemption, not forgiveness from outside, not the erasure of what was, the willing of it, the yes to what was, even to what was terrible, amor fati, the love of fate, even the fate that hurt, even the fate that broke, even the fate that you would have changed if you could, because you cannot, and so you will it. Thus I willed it, and in that willing, you are free. In that willing, you are free. Nietzsche writes, not the height, but the precipice is terrible. The precipice where the gaze shooteth downwards, and the hand graspeth upwards. There doth the heart become giddy by its double will. Ah, friends, have ye divined also my heart's double will? This is my precipice, and my danger, that my gaze shooteth towards the summit, and my hand would fain clutch and lean on the depth. To man clingeth my will. With chains do I bind myself to man, because I am pulled upward to the Overman. For thither tend my other will. And therefore do I live blindly among men, as if I knew them not, that my hand may not entirely lose belief and firmness. I know not you humans. This darkness and consolation is about me. I sit at the gateway for every rogue and ask, who wisheth to deceive me? This is the first instance of my human prudence, that I allow myself to be deceived. For I must be cautious, and not destroy the small faith of the common people. They would use that knowledge to destroy their own faith, which would destroy them, and I would have the destruction on my hands. So I do not look too closely. I trust somewhat blindly. This is my prudence among men. He continues, Then came to me the still small hour after midnight, and it spoke to me thus, Zarathustra, you knowest it, but you do not speak it. And I answered at last as one defiant, Yes, I know it, but I will not speak it. Why do you not speak it? You art hard, Zarathustra. You speakest like one who longeth not for it. You hast not yet suffered enough. And I answered again, I have suffered enough. But still you are cheerful, and you hast not yet suffered enough. For you sufferest yet from thine own greatness. You hast not yet become small enough to allow thyself to be carried by the great ones who surround thee. One day you will shrink from thy greatness, and you will shout, It is false, but that day is not yet come. Then the still hour spoke once more. Zarathustra, you knowest thy thought. It came to thee while you slept. The one great thought, the one that frightens thee most. Tell it. And Zarathustra was silent for a long time. And then he spoke. He said only, Not yet. And the still hour was silent. And the night moved on. Not yet. The thought that is too large to say yet. The eternal recurrence, which Zarathustra knows and cannot yet bring himself to say, because it is the heaviest thought, the most terrifying, the most beautiful, the most demanding, that everything returns exactly as it was, forever. And if you cannot say yes to that, you cannot say yes at all. This will come in part 3, but not yet, not yet. That is the end. Part 2 of Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, published 1883. And what has Nietzsche given us in this second movement? He has given us the wound beneath the gift. Zarathustra, who gives light, cannot receive light. Who teaches, cannot be taught. Who loves, cannot be loved equally. Because he has too much, and the world around him has too little capacity to receive it. This is the night song, the loneliest speech in the entire book. And he has given us the most important teaching of the whole book. The will cannot will backwards. The past cannot be undone, cannot be reached, cannot be changed, and the will that fights this will be consumed by it, will take its revenge on the present for what the past cost, while the will that learns to say, "Thus I willed it," even of the worst, even of the thing it would have changed, is free. This is redemption, not given from outside, not earned, not granted, chosen by the backward willing. That becomes forward willing. The it was that becomes thus I willed it. And part 3, which is coming, contains the heaviest thought. The thought that the still hour asked Zarathustra to say, and he could not yet. The eternal recurrence, that everything returns exactly as it was forever. And if you can say yes to that, if you can will this life exactly as it is, with all its darkness and light, to return forever, then you have truly said yes to life, without reservation, without the hidden no, without the comfort of believing this will end. This is part 3, the thought that Nietzsche called his greatest and most abysmal thought. Stay with me. I am Jamil, and this is the classic mind. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Part 2 is complete. I'm Jamil. Welcome back to the classic mind. Part 1 gave us the beginning, the descent from the mountain. God is dead, the Overman, the last human being. One must have chaos to give birth to a dancing star. Part 2 gave us the wound, the night song, the loneliness of the giver who cannot receive, and the most important teaching, the will cannot will backwards, and the only redemption, to recreate all it was into a thus I willed it. And at the end of part 2, the still hour came to Zarathustra at midnight, and asked him to say the heaviest thought, and he said, not yet. Part 3 is the yet. The thought arrives, the eternal recurrence, that this life exactly as it is, with all its darkness and all its light, all its suffering and all its joy, returns exactly forever. And Zarathustra must look at this thought directly and say yes to it or be destroyed by it. This is part 3 of Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Let us begin. Nietzsche writes, "It was about midnight when Zarathustra went his way over the ridge of the isle, that he might arrive early in the morning at the other coast. For there he meant to embark. There was a good roadstead there, from which foreign ships also liked to anchor. They took on board many who wanted to cross over from the blessed islands. Now, when Zarathustra thus climbed the mountain, he thought on the way of his many solitary wanderings from youth onwards, and how many mountains and ridges and summits he had already climbed. I am a wanderer and mountain climber, said he to his heart. I love not the plains, and it seemeth I cannot sit still for long. And whatever may still overtake me as fate and experience, a wandering will be therein, and a mountain climbing. In the end, one experienceth only oneself. The time is now past when accidents could befall me. And what could still overtake me that was not already mine? It returneth only. At last it cometh home to me. Mine own self, and whatever thereof hath been long abroad and scattered abroad among all things and accidents. And one thing more do I know. I stand now before my last summit, and before that which hath been longest reserved for me. Ah, I must ascend my hardest path. Ah, I have begun my lonesomest wandering. But he who is of my nature doth not avoid such an hour. The hour that saith to him, only now do you go thy way of greatness, summit and abyss, They are now joined together. You goest thy way of greatness. Now it is thy last refuge that hath become thy last danger. You goest thy way of greatness. It must be thy best courage that there is no longer any path behind thee. You goest thy way of greatness. Here no one shall steal after thee. Thy foot itself hath effaced the path behind thee, and over that path standeth written impossibility. And if all ladders henceforth fail thee, then must you learn to mount on thine own head. How couldst you mount upward otherwise? On thine own head and beyond thine own heart. The gentlest in thee must now become the hardest. He who hath always much indulged himself sickeneth at last of his own indulgence. Praises to what maketh hard. I do not praise the land where butter and honey flow. To learn to look away from oneself in order to see much, this hardness is necessary to every mountain climber. He, however, who is obtrusive with his eyes as a discerner, how could he ever see more of anything than its foregrounds? You, however, O Zarathustra, wouldst behold the ground and background of all things. So must you mount above thyself, ever upward, until even thy stars are under thee. Yea, to look down upon myself and even upon my stars, that only would I call my summit. That hath remained for me as my last summit. That hath remained for me as my last summit. That hath remained for me as my last summit. Zarathustra, alone on the mountain, at midnight, going toward what he has been avoiding, the thought that is his last summit. Nietzsche writes, when it got abroad among the sailors that Zarathustra was on board the ship, for a man had embarked with him who came from the Blessed Islands, there was much curiosity and expectation. But Zarathustra kept silent for 2 days, and was cold and deaf from sadness, so that he neither answered looks nor questions. On the evening of the 2nd day, however, he again opened his ears, though he still kept silent. For there were many strange and dangerous things to hear on that ship, which came from far off and wanted to go still further. Zarathustra, however, was fond of all those who make distant voyages, and do not like to live without danger. And behold, when listening his own tongue was at last loosened, and the ice of his heart broke, then began he to speak thus to the wondering sailors. To you, the daring venturers and adventurers, and whoever hath embarked with cunning sails upon frightful seas, to you, the enigma intoxicated, the twilight enjoyers, whose souls are allured by flutes to every treacherous gulf. For ye do not like to grope for the truth with cowardly hand. And where ye can divine, ye hate to calculate. To you only do I tell the enigma that I saw, the vision of the lonesomest one. The vision of the lonesomest one. He continues, lately walked I in a gloomy gray twilight on a mountain path, sternly and thoughtfully, without feeling tender. For a man had called out to me, "Mount you, O Zarathustra." And he who called to me was a dwarf, and he sat on my shoulder. He was half mole, half dwarf, lame, laming, dripping lead into mine ear, leaden thoughts into my brain. And when I looked at him, was he not the spirit of gravity? But he was heavy, he was small, and his thoughts pressed upon me. I bore him long. I bore him as one beareth a burden. But he was heavy, and I almost fell, until at last I said to the dwarf, "Either I carry thee, or you carriest me?" And the dwarf sneered and seemed glad. Then suddenly it was no more cold. We had stopped at a gateway. I looked up. The gateway had two faces. Two paths met there, and no one had yet walked either to its end. This long lane backwards, it continueth for an eternity. And that long lane forward, that is another eternity. They are in contradiction to each other, these roads. They directly abut on one another. And it is here, at this gateway, that they come together. The name of the gateway is inscribed above, Moment. The name of the gateway is Moment. He continues, "From this gateway moment doth the long eternal lane run backwards. Behind us lieth an eternity. Must not whatever can run have already run along that lane? Must not whatever can happen have already happened, done, and gone by? And if everything hath already been, what thinkest you, dwarf, of this moment? Must not this gateway also have been before? And are not all things bound fast together in such a way, draweth all coming things after it? Consequently, itself also? For whatever can run of these long lines forward, must it run once more? And this slow spider which creepeth in the moonlight, and this moonlight itself, and I and you at this gateway, whispering together, whispering of eternal things. Must we not all have been there before? And must we not return and run in that other lane out before us, that long, weird lane? Must we not eternally return? Thus did I speak, and always more softly, for I was afraid of mine own thoughts and arrear thoughts. Then suddenly I heard a dog howl near me. Had I ever heard a dog howl thus? My thoughts ran back. Yes, when I was a child in the remotest childhood, then did I hear a dog howl thus, and saw it also, with hair bristling head upwards, trembling in the stillest midnight, when even dogs believe in ghosts, so that it moved me. The moon was then full, silent as death. It stood above the house, still as a disk. The dog was frightened, and the silence terrible. And the dog howled again, and I went towards it. And behold, before me lay a young shepherd, writhing, choking, convulsed, his face distorted, and a heavy black serpent hung out of his mouth. Had I ever seen so much loathing and pale horror on a face? He had perhaps gone to sleep. Then had the serpent crept into his throat, and there bitten itself fast. My hand pulled and pulled at the serpent, in vain. I could not pull the serpent out of his throat. Then it cried out of me, "Bite! Bite its head off! Bite!" Thus it cried out of me, my horror, my hatred, my loathing, my pity, all my good and my bad, cried with one voice out of me. Then the shepherd bit as my cry counseled him. He bit with a good bite. Far away did he spit the head of the serpent, and sprang up, no longer shepherd, no longer human, a transfigured being, a light-surrounded being that laughed. Never on earth laughed a human being as he laughed. I heard a laughter that was no human laughter. And now doth a thirst gnaw at me, a longing that is never stilled, my longing for that laughter. Oh, how do I now endure still to live? And how could I endure still to die? Thus spoke Zarathustra. Bite the head off the serpent. The vision, the shepherd, with the heavy black serpent in his throat, which is the eternal recurrence, the heaviest thought, that is crawled in while the shepherd slept and threatens to suffocate him. And the only redemption is not to remove the serpent gently, not to wait, not to endure, to bite the head off the heaviest thought, to swallow it, actively, willingly, with the full force of the affirming will, and spit out what is dead in it, and stand up, transfigured, laughing, no longer the shepherd, no longer the one suffocated, the one who bit and was freed by the biting. This is what Zarathustra must do with the eternal recurrence, not endure it, affirm it, bite its head off, and laugh. Nietzsche writes, "With such enigmas and bitterness in his heart did Zarathustra sail over the sea. When, however, he was 4 day journeys from the blessed islands and from his friends, then had he surmounted all his pain. Triumphantly and with firm foot did he again accept his destiny. And then spoke Zarathustra to his jubilating conscience, 'Alone am I again, and like to be so, alone with clear heaven and open sea, and again is the afternoon around me. On an afternoon did I find my friends for the first time. On an afternoon also did I find them a second time. At the hour when all light becometh still, I stand here and wait. Happiness, however, and innocence are the most bashful things, neither like to be sought. One should have them, but should not seek them. Some people reach out for happiness as if it were a thing to be grasped. They close the hand, they hold tight. They are afraid to let it shift. And happiness, which is not a thing, but a quality of presence, slips through the closed hand and is not found. But the person who has stopped looking, who has turned their attention to the work, to the path, to what must be done, finds happiness arriving beside them, unannounced, like an afternoon, like light becoming still. This is involuntary bliss, the happiness that comes when you are not pursuing it, that stands beside you quietly while you pursue what matters. Happiness arrives beside you when you pursue what matters. Nietzsche writes, "O heaven above me, you pure deep heaven, you abyss of light, gazing on thee do I tremble with divine desires. To throw myself into thy height, that is my depth. To hide myself in thy purity, that is mine innocence. The God doth veil his beauty. Thus do you hide thy stars. You speakest not. Thus proclaimest you thy wisdom to me. Today do you rise for me silent as a star, thy love and thy shyness. Purified light art you to me, and purifying, you art above me, and I am under thee. But between us there floateth a cloud, my enemy. That cloud is the spirit of gravity that I must conquer before I can reach thee. But you do not answer me. You art silent. That is enough. I have learnt from thee that silence is also an answer. I have learnt from thee that the best answers are the ones the sky does not give, because the sky does not argue, does not justify, does not explain. It simply is, and its being is the argument. I want to be like that. I want my life to be the argument, not my words, not my explanations, not my justifications. The life itself, the action, the creation, the yes, spoken not in words, but in being. Thus spoke Zarathustra before sunrise, looking at the sky. Thus spoke Zarathustra before sunrise. Nietzsche writes, "When Zarathustra was again on the firm land, he did not go straightway to his mountain and his cave, but did many wanderings and questionings, and ascertained this and that, so that he said of himself jokingly, 'Lo, a river that floweth back to its source in many windings.' And thus he went far away from the sea, and towards the town in which he had previously stayed, and from whence he had come. And in doing so came anew before the gate of the great city. Here, however, a foaming fool sprang towards him with outstretched hands, and obstructed his path. It was the same fool whom the people called the ape of Zarathustra, for he had learned from Zarathustra somewhat of the expression and cadence of his language, and borrowed also perhaps from the treasures of his wisdom. But the fool spoke thus, and his voice was cracked and distorted. 'O Zarathustra, here is the great city. Here hast you nothing to seek and everything to lose. Why wouldst you wade through this mire? Have pity upon thy foot. Spit rather on the gate of the city, and turn back. This is hell for hermits' thoughts. Great thoughts are here boiled alive and cooked small. Here do all great sentiments decay. Here may only rattle-bone sensations rattle. Smellest you not already the shambles and cookshops of the spirit? Steameth not this city with the fumes of slaughtered spirit? Seest you not the souls hanging like limp, dirty rags? And they make newspapers also out of these rags. Hearest you not how spirit hath here become a play upon words? It vomiteth loathsome word swill. And they make newspapers also out of this word swill. They hound each other and know not whither. They inflame each other and know not why. They tingle with their pinchbeck, they jingle with their gold. They are cold and seek warmth from distilled waters. They are feverish and seek coolness from frozen spirits. They are all sick and sore through public opinion. All lusts and vices are here at home, but there are virtuous people here also. There is much appointed virtue, much appointable virtue with scribe fingers and hard-sitting and waiting flesh blessed with little breast stars and padded without hip daughters of the public good. There are also many pious people here and many believing people. Many a long believer snarleth at the unbeliever. O Zarathustra, seest you not this city? Oh, that you had seen its foundation. Fly away from this hell for hermit's thoughts. Thus spoke the foaming fool. Thus spoke the foaming fool, and Zarathustra listened, and then spoke, Here you must be silent. Thy mouth hath long betrayed thee. Why didst you go so long in the swamps, and brood thus, till you thyself hadst become a frog? Flows there not a tainted, frothy swamp blood in thine own veins, when you hast thus learned to croak and revile? Why didst you not go into the forest? Or why didst you not plough the ground? Is the sea not full of green islands? It seemeth to me you do not honor thyself enough. Thy contempt will kill thee some day. I, Zarathustra, the advocate of life, the advocate of suffering, the advocate of the circle, I call thee fool, for you hast contempt without creation, and that is the worst poverty. The one who only says no, who only criticizes, who sees everything wrong without building anything. This one is not Zarathustra's student. This one is his ape. And the ape is the worst thing, worse than the enemy, because the ape wears the teacher's face and discredits the teacher by the ugliness of its imitation. The ape wears the teacher's face and discredits the teacher by the ugliness of its imitation. Nietzsche writes, "Thus slowly wandering through many peoples and diverse cities, did Zarathustra return by roundabout roads to his mountain and his cave. And therewith came he unawares also to the gate of the great city. But here a foaming fool with outstretched hands sprang towards him and intercepted his path. This is, however, the fool whom the people call the ape of Zarathustra. Zarathustra passed him by and said, 'You who lovest a city, lovest thyself in it. But I love my friends who live in the country.' And Zarathustra passed him by, and after many days did Zarathustra arrive at his mountain again. The eagle and the serpent came towards him to greet him as he descended to the entrance of his cave. And Zarathustra looked upon them and was glad. He spoke to his heart thus, 'The home, the place where things wait for you, where the eagle does not need to be told what you are, where the serpent does not ask to be convinced, where everything already knows. This is the home, not the city, not the crowd, not the marketplace where one must prove oneself again and again. The home, where one is already known and already enough, where one is already known and already enough." He continues, "And when he had arrived at his cave, he went to his animals and embraced them for a time. And he spoke to his heart, 'Now once more shall I rest before I go on my way. For the great things require long preparation. The great yes requires a long practice of not yet. And now the not yet is ending. I feel it in my bones. The thought that I could not yet say to the still hour, I can now almost say it. Almost. But first, let me rest. Let me eat. Let me be with my animals. Let me sleep. For tomorrow the hardest thing begins. And after the hardest thing, if I survive it, there will be the great laughing, as the shepherd laughed, when the serpent's head fell from his mouth, and he stood up, no longer shepherd, no longer human, transfigured. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Let me rest, for tomorrow the hardest thing begins." Nietzsche writes, "In a dream in the last morning, Zarathustra went into a forest beyond the world, and there did he weigh the world. Too early for him came an early morning, a morn that was too light, too clear, too certain for Zarathustra. His animals were about him, and he awoke, but his eye was already turned inwards. He had a dream. In the dream, 3 things came before him to be weighed. 3 things which the world and the priests of the world call evil. The first, voluptuousness. The world says, sinful is voluptuousness. Zarathustra says, voluptuousness is the great symbolic happiness of a higher happiness and the highest hope. To many is voluptuousness promised, but to all is she given, the sweet treasure to the sweet. To the Creator, voluptuousness is the great incentivizer and emancipator. the sovereign self-satisfaction of the Creator. It is the excess of the one who overflows onto the world. The second, the passion for power. The world says, sinful is the passion for power. Zarathustra says, the passion for power is the driving force of every great thing. Without the desire to surpass oneself, there is no creation. Without the desire to master the chaos within, there is no art. Without the will to grow, there is no life. The passion for power directed outward becomes tyranny. Directed inward becomes self-overcoming. And self-overcoming is Zarathustra's whole teaching. The third, selfishness. The world says evil is selfishness. Zarathustra says wrong is the selfishness of the sick and the poor, of the one who takes because they cannot create. But the selfishness of the one who overflows, who gives and who gives and who gives again. This selfishness is different. This is the right of the Creator, to believe in their own work, to love their own creation, to say, this is mine, I made it, and it is good. The tree does not apologize for taking up space, for reaching toward the sun, for dropping its fruit where it will. This is not evil selfishness. This is the love of the Creator for what they have created, including themselves. Thus did Zarathustra weigh the three evils in his dream, and found them good, or capable of good, in the hands of the right ones. Nietzsche writes, my mocking and laughing devil, the spirit of gravity, is it of him that ye tell me it is a master? And we do not need to learn to walk, and swim, and dance, and climb. We do not need even wings to fly into life. Verily not to the backward do I teach to turn the legs. That is a suffering and a sickness in the overtired. The spirit of gravity, my enemy, all things fall, that is his argument. That is his great wisdom. Everything falls. Every high thing falls. Every great aspiration falls. Every soaring thing comes eventually down. So why soar? This is the spirit of gravity, the one who points at every fallen thing as evidence that rising is foolish. But Zarathustra says, the bird rises, and rises, and rises, and the spirit of gravity says, but it must come down. And Zarathustra says, yes, and then it rises again. The rising is not cancelled by the falling. The falling is not the argument against the rising. They are both the truth of flight. He, who must be a creator in good and evil, verily he must first be a destroyer and break values in pieces. Thus doth the greatest evil belong to the greatest good. That, however, is the creative good. Let me speak unto you, ye wisest men. Learn to dance. Learn to dance over your own heads. What doth it matter that ye have failed? How much is still possible? So learn to laugh at yourselves as ye ought to laugh. Ye higher men, how much is still possible? And verily, how much hath already succeeded? How rich is this earth in small, good, perfect things, in well-constituted things. Place around you small, good, perfect things, ye higher men. Their golden maturity healeth the heart. The perfect teacheth one to hope. But the greatest thing I can give thee, the insight by which I shall set you free, is this: that which is called heaven shall be set below thee, and the depth shall seem like height, and the height shall seem like depth to thee, when you no longer look up at what oppresses you and call it heaven, but look at it directly and see it as what it is, a weight that you can choose to put down. A weight you can choose to put down. Nietzsche writes, "Here do I sit and wait, old broken tables around me, and also new tables half written. When cometh mine hour, the hour of my descent, my going down? For once more will I go unto men. For that hour do I wait, for first must the signs come to me that it is mine hour. The laughing lion must come with the flock of doves. Meanwhile do I talk to myself as one who hath time. No one telleth me anything new, so I tell myself anew. When I came unto men, I found them resting on an old delusion. They all thought they had long known what was good and evil for man. An old wearisome thing seemed all virtue, and all speaking of virtue to them. And he who wanted to sleep well spake of good and evil ere he retired to rest. This somnolence did I disturb when I taught. What is yet to be found out is the good and evil for man, and I taught them to question what is called good, and to question what is called evil, for the values that were handed down by someone, and that someone had their own reasons, and their own time, and their own power to protect, and their own weakness to conceal. And the values they handed down served all of these, more than they served the truth. So I broke the old tables, not to have nothing, but to make room for what must be written new. And I sit here now, with the old broken tables, and the new ones half written, waiting for the hour of descent, when I go again unto men with what is new, which is not yet finished, but is already true, waiting for the hour of descent with what is new, which is not yet finished, but is already true." Nietzsche writes, "One morning, not long after his return to his cave, Zarathustra sprang up from his couch like a madman, cried with a terrible voice, and acted as if someone still lay on the couch who did not wish to rise. And Zarathustra's voice resounded in such a manner that his animals came to him frightened. And out of all the neighboring caves and lurking places, all the creatures slipped away, flying, creeping, walking, according to their variety of foot or wing. Zarathustra, however, spoke these words: 'Up, abysmal thought, out of my depth. I am thy cock-crow. I knock at thy gate. Bid thee come forth. Arise. My voice shall be a better cock-crow for thee. Loose the fetters of thine ears. Hearken, for I want to hear thee. Up, up. There is thunder enough to make even tombs attentive, and the sleep and the pallor and the grave stupor fly from thee. Open thine eyes, hear me, for I want to hear thee. Up, abysmal thought, I am thy cock-crow.' When Zarathustra had spoken these words, he waited, but there was nothing. He waited and waited, and at last something moved in the depths of him, and then rose, slowly, like a tide turning, the thought. And Zarathustra fell down as if struck by lightning. His animals ran toward him. They surrounded him, the eagle and the serpent, and waited. For a long time, Zarathustra lay still. Then at last he opened his eyes and saw his animals and said nothing. And then, little by little, he looked up, as one who wakes from a long dream and is not yet certain of the ground beneath him. And his animals said to him, "How do you fare, dear Zarathustra? Art you well?" And Zarathustra answered slowly, with great care, as if each word had been lifted from a very great depth. "For a long time I lay here as if struck dead, but it was not death. It was the hardest thing. The thought came, the one I have been avoiding, the one the still hour asked me to say. I said it. At last, I said it. And it was. He stopped, his animals waited, and he said, it was. Everything returns, not a little, not occasionally, not in broad outline. Everything. This moment, this breath, this pain, this joy returns. Exactly, forever. And if I cannot say yes to this, then I have not yet truly said yes to anything. Everything returns, exactly, forever. He continues, and Zarathustra's animals said to him, O Zarathustra, thy animals know well who you art, and must become. Behold, you art the teacher of the eternal recurrence. That is now thy destiny, that you must be first to teach this doctrine. How could this great destiny not be thy greatest danger and infirmity? Behold, we know what you teachest, that all things recur eternally, and we ourselves too, and that we have already existed an eternal number of times, and all things with us. You teach us that there is a great year of becoming, a monster of a great year. Turn itself over again and again, so that it may run down and run out anew. And Zarathustra replied, O my animals, are ye also cruel? Do ye wish to see what my suffering is? This is my suffering, not that it is hard to say, but that once said, it demands everything. For if this is true, that everything returns, then how I live this moment is how I live it forever. Not symbolically, not approximately, exactly. This moment returns. And so what shall I make of it? And his animals said, You must sing, O Zarathustra. And Zarathustra was silent. And then he began to sing, quietly at first, and then louder, the song of returning, the yes to the eternal yes, the yes to the eternal yes. Nietzsche writes, O my soul, I have taught thee to say today as others say yesterday and formerly. I have taught thee to sweep away from thee all that is not thine own, and to call it moldy and false. I have taught thee to stand still and to be small, and I have taught thee to say you art great, and I have taught thee to create beyond thyself, and I have taught thee the new will, to will this path which man hath walked blindly, and to call it good, and no longer to steal along it as a sneaking sinner. A new will I taught thee, to will this eternal truth that everything returneth. This will I taught thee to call not a burden, but a gift, not a prison, but the widest sky. For the person who truly wills the eternal recurrence of all things, who says yes to it fully, without reservation, has said yes to life itself, more thoroughly than any prayer, more completely than any faith, has said, I want this, all of it, even the dark parts, even the parts I would in the moment of suffering have changed. I want all of it to return, because this is the only honest yes, the yes that includes the no, the yes that does not hide from what is hard, the yes that is strong enough to carry the eternal recurrence and not be crushed. This is what I taught you, O my soul, and now I ask, art you satisfied? And my soul answered, I am satisfied. I need nothing more. All that I needed, I have received. All that I needed to learn, I have learned, and I am ready for the great going down and the great going forward. Thus spoke Zarathustra's soul. All that I needed, I have received, and I am ready. Nietzsche writes, into thine eyes gazed I lately, O life, and into the unfathomable did I seem to sink, but you pull'dst me out with a golden fishing rod. Mockingly didst you laugh when I called thee unfathomable. Such is the nature of all fish, you saidst it. They do not understand the water in which they swim. Life, art thou not still what I thought thee once, a secret of two genders? And what is beyond thee, as I know not? O see, you smilest and art mute, you who art the most wild, and the most gentle, and the most frightful, and the most full of grace, you smilest and takest me without choice. This is the dance of the dancing song, the dance between Zarathustra and life. Who teaches who? He thought he taught her. She thought she taught him. Neither was wrong. Both were dancing. The dance does not ask who leads. It only asks whether you are willing to move. And Zarathustra moved, and life moved with him, and the dance was, he could only say that he did not want it to stop, that this moving with what is, this yes to the dancing, was the closest thing to heaven he had ever found. Not above the earth, in the body, in the music of the world that plays whether you listen or not, and that it is better to listen and to dance than to stand still and call the stillness dignity. It is better to listen and to dance. Nietzsche writes, if I be a diviner and full of the divining spirit, which wandereth on high mountain ridges between two seas, wandereth between the past and the future as a heavy cloud, hostile to sultry plains and to all that is weary and can neither die nor live, ready for lightning in its dark bosom and for the redemptive flash of light, charged with lightnings which say yea, which laugh, yea, ready for divining flashes of lightning. Blessed is he who is thus charged, and verily long must he hang like a heavy tempest on the mountain, who shall one day kindle the light of the future. Oh, how could I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. The first seal, he continues, if ever my wrath hath burst graves asunder, shifted boundary stones, and rolled old shattered tables into precipitous depths. If ever my scorn hath scattered molded words to the winds, and if I have come like a besom to cross spiders, and as a cleansing wind to old charnel houses. If ever I have sat rejoicing where old gods lay buried, world-blessing, world-loving, beside the monuments of old world slanderers. For I love even the churches and the gods' graves, if only heaven looketh through their ruined roofs with pure eyes. And I like to sit like grass and red poppies on ruined churches and breathe. Oh, how could I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. The second seal. He continues, if ever a breath hath come to me of the creative breath, and of the heavenly necessity, which compelleth even chances to dance star dances. If ever I have laughed with the laughter of the creative lightning, to which the long thunder of the deed followeth grumblingly but obediently. If ever I have played dice with the gods at the divine table of the earth, so that the earth quaked and ruptured and snorted up floods of fire. For a divine table is the earth, and trembling with new creative dictums and divine throws of dice. Oh, how could I not be ardent for eternity and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. The third seal. He continues, if ever I have drunk a full draught of the foaming, spiced and blending bowl, in which all things are well blended, if ever my hand hath mingled the furthest with the nearest fire, with spirit and joy, with sorrow, and the worst with the best, if I myself am a grain of the saving salt, which maketh everything in the blending bowl blend well, oh, how could I not be ardent for eternity and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. The fourth seal. He continues, if I be fond of the sea, and of all that is of the nature of the sea, and fondest of it when it angrily contradicteth me, if the exploring delight be in me which impelleth sails towards the undiscovered, if the seafarer's delight be in my delight, if ever my rejoicing hath called out, the coast hath vanished, now falleth from me the last chain, the boundless roareth around me. Far away sparkle for me space and time. Well, cheer up, old heart. Oh, how could I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. The fifth seal. He continues, if my virtue be a dancer's virtue, and if I have often sprung with both feet into golden green grave delight, if my wickedness be a laughing wickedness, at ease amongst rose banks and hedges of lilies, for in laughter is all evil present, but it is sanctified and absolved by its own bliss. And if this be my Alpha and Omega, that everything heavy shall become light, all body a dancer, all spirit a bird, and verily that is my Alpha and Omega. Oh, how could I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. The sixth seal. He continues, if ever I have spread out a tranquil sky above me, and have flown into mine own sky with mine own pinions, if I have swum playfully in profound luminous distances, and if my freedom's wisdom hath come to me like the fish wisdom of the dolphin, if ever my wickedness hath laughed out long and kindly the golden laughing wickedness, if ever I have found myself at home on the earth, and with its riddles, and if I have caressed even the most stubborn, and the most gray and cold, and the worst of riddles, then well, that was mine, mine only. And how I love thee, you grumbling and good and new riddle. How I love thee, you difficult earth and beautiful. Oh, how could I not be ardent for eternity, and for the marriage ring of rings, the ring of the return? Never yet have I found the woman by whom I should like to have children, unless it be this woman whom I love. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. For I love thee, O eternity. The seventh seal. And now 7 times the yes has been said. 7 different facets of the same yes. The yes to the storm, the yes to the ruins, the yes to the creation, the yes to the blending, the yes to the sea, the yes to the dancing, the yes to the earth itself, 7 times. For I love thee, O eternity. This is the full yes, the yes without reservation, without the hidden no, without the comfort of believing this will pass and something better will come. This, exactly this, returns forever. And Zarathustra says, I love thee, O eternity. This is the answer to the eternal recurrence. Not endurance, not acceptance, not the gritted teeth of the Stoic who bears what cannot be changed. Love. I love thee, O eternity. The love of what returns, of what is, of what must be. Amor fati, the love of fate. This is Zarathustra's yes, the yes that concludes part 3. That is the end. Part 3. Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche. Published 1883 to 1885. Complete. And what has Nietzsche given us? A prophet who descended from a mountain with too much to give, and found the crowd wanting the last human being, not what he carried, who sat with a dead man in an empty marketplace, and understood that wisdom cannot be given to the many, only to the few, who taught the Three Metamorphoses, the camel who carries, the lion who refuses, the child who creates, who said one must have chaos to give birth to a dancing star, who suffered the loneliness of the giver who cannot be given to, singing the night song in the dark, who discovered the will cannot will backwards, and that the only freedom from the past is to say of it, thus I willed it, who faced the heaviest thought, the eternal recurrence. Everything returns, exactly, forever, and who said, for I love thee, O eternity, 7 times, in 7 different ways, the full yes to everything, not despite the suffering, not despite the darkness, not despite the weight of what returns, with all of it included. For I love thee, O eternity. This is Nietzsche's answer to the question that the death of God left open. If the old values are gone, if the old meaning has collapsed, what remains? This, the willingness to love what is, to say yes to this life, this exact life, with its exact suffering and its exact joy, as something worth repeating forever. This is not comfort. This is not easy. This is not the warm hug of a God who promises things. This is harder than any faith, because faith can rest on what is beyond. But this, Nietzsche's yes, rests on nothing except the strength of the one who says it, and requires that the one who says it be strong enough to say yes without a net. This is Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche is complete. I'm Jamil, and this is the Classic Mind.